I don't really talk about this platform much, but I feel that I've neglected doing so at my own peril, at the left's own peril, because I think that a lot of online progressives have completely neglected one of the largest platforms on the internet, and in doing so have allowed Nazis to take it over, dominate it, and radicalize a whole lot of young people into far-right politics. That being, you got it, DJ Reaper Skier, Instagram. The primarily photo-sharing platform that has quickly grown to be a lot of people's go-to meme doom-scrolling app. And those memes can range anywhere from funny, relatable posts to little comics, people's art, little skit videos. But more often than not, due to the angering nature of right-wing propaganda, the occasional right-wing or Nazi skit video argument will make it in someone's feed. And that problem continued to bubble up and grow to the point where now I can't go on Instagram and search in like the Discover section without seeing a Nazi meme within the first few rows. It's bad, dude. Nazis truly have taken over Instagram. Now, to be fair, I mean, most people don't use Instagram as a social media, like, discovery site. They use it just to keep up with friends and post photos and comment on each other's photos. But if you do use Instagram and browse, like in the Discover tab, everything you're about to hear about here, you'll be very familiar with it. I'm glad to say, though, there is a creator here who's come along and has actually brought this issue up as a main focus of a video, and it's actually gotten some pretty big numbers, might I say. I'm pretty happy to see people are paying attention to this. The video is by Saji Sharma, and it's called Instagram Has an Alt-Right Problem, period. Very simple and straight to the point. I like it. I'm curious to see all the examples that he's going to show to make this point, since I imagine I'm going to have a lot to say about all of them. I've actually thought for a while now about just gathering a collage of Nazi memes I've found on Instagram, though I don't like looking for them for very long, and I don't like looking at them for very long, and doing a video where I just respond to random, like, viral Nazi memes from Instagram. So maybe this segment can kind of, I guess, rework that concept into itself. Let's find out. Anyway, folks, before we get into this, consider leaving a like and a comment on the video if you actually enjoy it and want to support it. If not, no problem, but it really does help a lot, and I appreciate it immensely. It really does mean the world. And subscribe as well if you want to, get notified when I upload new stuff. Leave a hype, too, to boost the channel and the algorithm. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get right into it, shall we?
Art is something that conservatives will always be increasingly bad at because there's just a fundamental lack of understanding when it comes to the human experience, and thus, how to evoke feeling that isn't just dictated based on such a materially altered experience.
I hate to pause so early, but this is a point I've had simmering at the tip of my tongue for a while now, and I finally have an opening to, make this take. I feel like conservatives have embraced AI so much because conservatives, when it comes to art, their art, quote-unquote, has always been human AI generation, if that makes sense. Conservatives are rarely original, and they rarely have any real moral message or moral or philosophical idea behind what the art they make. They're fundamentally opposed to looking, quote-unquote, too deep into media, and they don't like analyzing anything. And so I feel as though they love AI so much because it creates fake art, in the sense that it looks good, like it has everything that to the novice eye makes a good picture, but if you truly understand it, you recognize all the flaws that are just hiding in plain sight. It's very similar with politics in a way, and with art across the board when it comes to the right. Like, the art that conservatives make, even when it's successful, it's always pretending to have a message. It's always like ripping off or emulating other media that actually did have a purpose, it did have a message or a meaning or a philosophical idea behind it. And so it feels like another piece of media like that, but when you actually look at it too hard, it falls apart, just like an AI-generated image. And it totally computes for me, in hindsight, that the right would embrace AI when AI stands for everything the right does in regards to art. Pretending to make art.
Can't accept drag as a form of art. Do you even know what art is? Sure, they have community. arguably more community than among the left. But it's a farce. While there is more of a cohort when it comes to political identity due to the digestible and easy-to-grasp concepts of the right-wing ideology, that ideology is rooted in hyper-individualism. Survival of the fittest, every man for himself, pick yourself up by your bootstraps.
It's a very personal
This is the core of
journey
conservatism. I can't get out of the accent. This is the core of conservatism and ultimately capitalism. The two work hand in hand in such an incestuous manner, it makes you wonder how we didn't notice them fucking sooner. Well, it's because they've normalized
we
it.
did.
Now, while we're a lot more frayed, the
Marx
left is
did.
rooted in community. Maybe not liberalism nowadays, or for many a days, liberalism is basically just being moderate, but the core of socialism is community, something that we can't seem to find. So, why are conservatives, whose perspective on life is literally based in helping yourself before you help your neighbor, able to find more common ground, more footing?
Mutual hate. The right is less so focused on fighting for something right now and more focused on fighting against something. It is a mutual agreement that we all hate the left, we all hate the woke. Even if we have our own disagreements and some are more radically right-wing than others, at least we're all fighting the good fight against the crazy wokeness that we all agree is destroying America. That is why they're able to get along and form community, even when the supposed basis of their ideology is individualism. But, you know, I know he knows, but the right is not honest when they say their ideology is centered around individualism. They use individualism as a cudgel to make excuses for why right-wing politicians should not support any policy that would help the most disadvantaged in America, all the while they claim they care about the most disadvantaged, of course. While also... But woke is base. Woke is base, that's true. But, like, it's less so about achieving anything and more about stopping the left. They all agree the left is a problem that we should fight over, or that we should be fighting against, and not be fighting each other as long as it's around. And that's like the number one thing the left needs to counter. Somehow the left needs to, like, improve and fix its image. The left has been canceled, ironically. And the left needs to find a way to rehabilitate its image to the point where the broader public is down to identify as leftist again. It's a big problem.
And have more of an influence than those of us whose beliefs are actually centered around community itself. Well, it's because of social media. The current social media landscape thrives on short and clickable content that right-wing propaganda does a very good job of formatting too. Social media has been the great propaganda machine of this decade that will surely go down in the history books. Unless Trump has something to say about that, obviously. Speaking of Trump, I gotta cover all my bases here. Sure, I think my channel is objectively better than anything Jimmy Kimmel has ever done. I'm sure you can agree to that. But I can't risk being taken off the air. So, Supreme Leader Donald J. Trump, oh, how I bow down to thee. Give all of my services and gratitude to thee, and would never, ever, ever even think about talking ill of thee. Charlie Kirk was my idol. Sure, we had some feuds, had some beef, but all is forgiven and forgotten as he was a decent. No, he was a good. No.
Listen, guys. One day, Trump's gonna have me rounded up and put in a camp for daring to speak out publicly against him. Make sure you like and subscribe, and drop a comment on the videos, so at least when that happens, when I'm, like, dying, working myself to death in a Trump death camp, at least I can say to the other prisoners, hey, you know, I used to have a pretty big YouTube channel for all this. And they'll tell me to shut the fuck up. But hey, hit that like button, hit that comment button, it helps.
Oh, he was okay at some things. No, Charlie Kirk was a person. No. Now, I've already said my piece about Charlie Kirk in a YouTube post. If you would like to read it, you can pause here, but there's a lot of nuance when it comes to understanding what it is that we feel. And I think that it is a very humane and intrinsic thing to feel empathy for the tragic death of an individual, while also thinking that that individual was a racist scumbag who should be remembered as such. Now, this video is not about Charlie. It's about the legacy that he's leaving behind. Because while he can no longer monetize off of taking advantage of the naivete of young college students, there is still a vacuum that has to be filled. And unfortunately for us, there is a massive conservative cultural shift going on with many candidates rearing their heads ready to go. And today, we're talking about that conservative shift in the mainstream and on social media. Specifically, on Instagram. Speaking of mainstream, my good friend Hassan and I just interviewed a student present at the Charlie Kirk assassination for the new channel that we just started called Mainstream Media, where we're doing a news broadcast spoof and taking a satirical approach to all things news and media. So if you're interested in any of that, please go check out and support the channel. Anyway, back to the video. I mentioned conservatives being bad at art. I didn't say that for no reason. Did you know that the online right is so organized that they have a community merch store? Well, they do. Red pill threads become the resistance.
Well, okay. Now,
Community merch store? Well, they do. Red pill.
I don't know if this is like the conservative community merch store. I don't recognize many of these people down below. Maybe there's a lot more people in this thing that I don't know about. But yeah, there are like... I'm pretty sure the conservative media empire probably pulls in somewhere close to like 20 to 50 million a year cumulatively net when it comes to merch sales of all kinds. If you count things like their coffee businesses as a form of merch, right? It is wild how much these conservative influencers have gone beyond being propaganda machines and have become full-on business owners that move immense volumes of merch and make insane money off of it.
Threads become the resistance. My favorite bit is conservatives pretending to be the resistance. The guy you voted for is in office. What are you resisting? I don't know, I guess any critical thinking skills whatsoever. This is a website for a right-wing themed merch store in which right-wing creators advertise for. I don't know to what extent these creators are affiliated with the designing of the merch, but they sure as hell promote it regardless. Let's take a look at some of their art. Fight the Globalists. A shirt of Alex Jones photoshopped in place of a musician. Looks familiar. Is it Travis Scott? I don't want to get that one wrong. Nice. Nick Fuentes quote. Not his strongest, I'd say.
I'd ask going hard as fuck.
An AI-generated image of the Burger King guy who called black people the N-word on a plane.
Dude, okay. Is this the Studio Ghibli AI? Because I've noticed that, like, I've had a couple of, like, AI slop channels make hate videos on me, and they all use this, like, AI-generated animated style. Is this the Studio Ghibli AI everyone was freaking out about? Yep. Yeah, apparently a lot of, like, the AI slop drama YouTubers, like, normal drama YouTubers immediately rose in my, like, their stock rose in my mind immediately when I found out there are AI drama slop YouTubers. I was like, okay, yeah, that's the problem we all need to be opposed to. That screams anime style slop. Yeah, it's a big thing. Like I said before, I'm glad I brought up AI because it ended up being relevant.
Image of the Burger King guy who called black people the N-word on a plane. Get the off the plane! This is one of the guys we're talking about, so don't forget about him. An AI-generated image of the lady who called a black woman and her son the N-word. Nice, I'm starting to notice a pattern here. If you haven't noticed, this might make it a bit more clear. Yeah, that is a hat with the N-word on it, made by a creator who goes by the name Woman Propaganda, who went viral recently for wearing this hat and doing
Woman Propaganda. I love how much of a, like, manlet he is, too. Like, there's really nothing more perfect than the image of a little man in a suit, Sieg Heiling. Just perfect. I would make this my goddamn screensaver, just to remind myself what I'm doing this all for. To make people like this cry.
a Nazi salute with our old pal Myron Gaines. A few years ago, this would have been content found in the depths of the alt-right pipeline. And now, not only is it viral, but it's mainstream too. Both this creator and Hermes did it again.
I'd not pre-watch, I swear to God. I'm going into this blind. It's just, we're on the same wavelength right now. We're sharing brainwaves.
Far-right conservative creator are two of the largest influencers on their end of the political spectrum today. They both present perfect examples of the type of conservative culture and content that is so explicitly dangerous and so worryingly mainstream. They are also the perfect examples of the type of people that both looked up to and idolized Charlie Kirk before his death and are now creating a martyr out of him after his passing. So let's take a look.
I don't know about you, but I would not want to go on a cruise that looked like...
Who remembers the episode of South Park where Cartman is like going on a racist tirade and has this like sad musical number about how, and I quote, there are too many minorities in his water park. They are literally doing that bit here. They are literally doing the South Park bit that was making fun of Cartman for being so hyper obsessed with racism that he can't enjoy a day at the water park. Sometimes I see conservative propaganda and I'm like, do they know what they're doing? Like, they're fucking with us, right? Like, this one's supposed to be a wink, wink, nudge, nudge at us, that they know what they're doing, right? That's what this is supposed to be. Like, because you can't make this shit up.
Like this.
Probably smells like cocoa butter, fried chicken. There's probably some watermelon somewhere.
Probably smells like weed.
Definitely smells like weed.
I like how he is like... His whole thing is being the black guy that hangs out with Nazis and also hates black people. And he's always saying all these, like, racist stereotypes about black people and stuff, and it's just like, bro, like, what makes you think anybody sees you as different? The only reason they accept you is you're willing to say that shit, and they can frame it as like, see, there are even black people who will admit these things. But none of the people in this sphere support them. Hasn't Myron Gaines just gotten absolutely, like, run through the ringer over the last few years because obviously he caters to an audience that hates him for his skin color, and that's just a powder keg that will eventually blow? That just can't stay stable forever. You can't be a black man with a white supremacist audience and maintain that without serious problems indefinitely. It will blow up in your face spectacularly.
Truly the creme de la creme of online content. Really makes you think. Not only is this lazy and over-the-top racism that just serves to please lazy and over-the-top racists, it's also just that good. Conservative content has to be content slop, because the politics are political slop. This is Hayden McDougal or woman propaganda. Hayden here is like if Nick Fuentes was born with more height, but less brain. He's just as far-right politically, just as outspoken about his beliefs, but for some reason isn't banned on places like Instagram or YouTube. And his content is really just rage bait and political slop. Sure, Nick Fuentes is evil, but his evilness involves some form of critical thought, however maleficent and incorrect it may be. Hayden, on the other hand, is like a caricature of a conservative. He's just like a parrot that says the same offensive lines over and over again. Now, the name of his account is woman...
And we all know, by the way, if there are conservative accounts on Instagram of all platforms trying to radicalize people, they're really aiming young. Like, they're aiming for, like, lower teens here. Which means their target demographic of people they're trying to radicalize have no self-awareness and very little critical thinking skills, and most importantly, very little wisdom. Wisdom as in to say, a good radar of, like, when they're dealing with a bullshitter. Like, when you're a teenager and you see a YouTube video, it's not like you're going to see something obviously fake and fall for it necessarily, but if somebody comes off as very confident and knowledgeable, you're much less likely to just say, let me fact check what they have to say. You're more likely to say, huh, this person sounds smart. They must know what they're talking about. Why would they lie? And, ironically, someone like this dude, the woman propaganda guy, probably targeting like a 12 to 13-year-old audience on Instagram to radicalize, none of them see this guy and go, oh my god, this guy's like a parody, because they don't know what he would be a parody of. And that's a big part of how the right continues to experience these big blow-ups online, is because they primarily benefit from young teens online with very little political know-how, having nowhere to go but to the right, because the right is all that's available to them. The right-wing content is being pushed on them constantly. Yes, conservatives trying to groom kids, who'd have thought? I mean, in a way, it is grooming into a certain set of politics. It's more insidious than just trying to make kids believe in a certain idea, though. That's the thing. Conservatives don't just want to make people conservative. They don't just want to make kids conservative. The key is they want to make people, keyword kids actually, and teenagers, hate the left. More than they want to make them conservative, they want them to hate the left and hate the left forever. For hating the left to be personal for them. And that's what a lot of their content focuses on. To instill a very personalized, deep, hard to, like, route out hatred for the left. If you hate the left, you'll never hear them out. You'll never listen to what they have to say. You'll never give them the benefit of the doubt.
Propaganda, because his whole shtick was reacting to and debunking feminists, or really any woman that is advocating for herself.
I saw someone say, at the end of the day, women can trust a bear to be a bear, but can't trust a human man to be humane.
Damn.
How freaking depressing.
How freaking depressing. Girls will have a body count over 10 and then hop on a podcast and pretend
Like, am I a whore for having a body count over 10? At 26 years old, does that make me a whore? Now, like, as a guy, like, would you apply the same standard to me? Am I used up because I've got a body count over 10? Is 10 extreme now? Like, to these dudes, legitimately, if you don't immediately fucking, if you don't immediately get married out of, like, high school, and if you don't refuse to have sex until marriage, or at the for a lot of these dudes, I'm sure most dudes, even those that watch this stuff, don't expect, like, their dream woman to be a virgin necessarily. But they probably do get really antsy and really, self-conscious, insecure, whatever you want to call it, if their partner has been with, like, more than whatever arbitrary line they consider a problem. Like, I don't know. These guys like Nick Fuentes, and he's definitely hooked up with more than 10 dudes.
like they're still human.
Imagine making fun of women when you kind of sound like one. Just to be clear, I don't care how people sound or how anyone presents themselves. It's just the fact that this guy does care. He cares a lot. So it's a little ironic. And to have the gall to spew the bullshit you're spewing with any voice, but specifically this one, I mean, it's grating. Especially now that Hayden's become more infamous for saying something else. And I'll give you a hint. He put it on a hat.
This and a godly woman. This.
Okay, that...
What am I even...
Okay, fuck this guy, but I will say this does go hard as fuck. What is that? Fucking, like, beef rib? I think he's dipping beef rib in over-easy eggs and just munching on that shit covered in like, melty, warm egg yolk. Now, I will say, that is my favorite way to have eggs. When I make eggs, I make them over-easy. I like a bit of toast. I like to dip the toast in the, like, dippy yolks of the eggs and eat the toast. It is top tier. I love it. All right? The idea of taking a whole-ass beef rib, dipping that shit in egg yolk and eating it, I don't know whether or not I'd like it, but it looks pretty goddamn good. That looks really fucking good. Call me crazy, but I would be down to eat that.
Godly woman. This.
What am I even doing with my life anymore? This video went mega viral because white man say word he's not supposed to, and Instagram doesn't even censor it, let alone take it down. That's right, that's me bleeping
making
it,
money.
not Hayden.
Why
This is
would
just genuinely horrific content. Again, my problem with conservatives is not that they make offensive jokes, it's that they're not good at it. Offensive jokes can be funny. You just have to know how to be funny. This is just saying words for shock value. Look at me, I can say that women aren't human, and I can say the N-word, I'm edgy. That's awesome. No one...
Obviously, man, I know this is gonna sound weird, but I really feel like the internet's kinda in a cycle. You know, it really feels like we're back in 2015, 2016 again, just 10 years ago. Full, like, decade cycle. Because when the right reached critical mass, in terms of its influence and popularity, it basically culminated in the right getting so overconfident in their big winning that they started dropping the mask to an extent where all of the plausible deniability melted away. And it wasn't an overnight thing. It was like a thing that happened over the course of multiple years. The right's plausible deniability waned with each passing month, until eventually the arguments the left had been making for years about the alt-right started to stick. Alt-right, at one point, was not synonymous with Nazi. Not in the minds of most people. Conservatives, alt-righters, did not deny the label of alt-right as if it was a losing point to be called that. They didn't argue against it. They proudly called themselves that. Back then, being alt-right was seen by many people as just being a young, new, hip version of populist conservative. Later on, obviously, people came to the broader realization, oh, alt-right is just a fancy word for Nazis, it's euphemism. But there was years of ambiguity, even in the mainstream, about that. And when the left tried to make the point, no, these alt-righters, quote-unquote, such as Milo Yiannopoulos, are Nazis, capital N Nazis. They love Hitler. The left would get called crazy, insane, SJWs, woke, whatever you want to call it. But as time went by, and the ability to deny such claims became harder and harder over the course of years, the left found itself a pocket of time where it had some real influence. Now we're back in an era of right-wing cultural dominance. Trump's back in power. They control more of the government than ever, but we're in a point right now where the stage has never been set better for the left to have a big comeback. There's really nowhere to go from here but up for the left, if you think about it. I guess unless Trump literally has us rounded up, put into camps, and murdered. I guess that is the only... That is the down from here, I guess.
Fucking cares. The only people that care are the ones that glorify this behavior. The ones that are emboldened by Hayden's courage. And now, this is like all he does.
I went viral saying a few times.
Do you think with the A it should be controversial to say it?
No. I don't think you should really get in trouble for saying any word, but the A...
The fucking Sigma soundtrack music.
For sure.
Again, he's not bleeping it out. I am. What kind of an interviewer has on a guest like this? Holy shit, 12 million followers, top 3 ranked education show on Apple?
Yep.
We're so cooked.
This is why I'm always emphasizing, like, it's not just me, but all the progressive content you watch. You need to engage with it. Yeah, lurker watching stuff is what the, left-wing audiences love to do. They love to lurk watch things, like watch things on another monitor, watch it in their pocket while they just listen, watch it on their TV, which means they never comment or like. And that means that this right-wing content, which just farms engagement in a way that left-wing content just can't, it blows up. And I'm not saying this for my own health. I'm not saying this because I want it to be true. I'm just telling you how the algorithms work. If engagement is low for left-wing content, which it perpetually remains to be, then the right is going to continue to hold things like the #1 educational podcast position on Apple. Things like that. And there's nothing you can do about it other than start engaging with your favorite progressive content. The bigger it is, the better it is to engage with it. The larger it is, the more your contribution helps to push it into larger magnitudes of success. So it's not even just smaller channels such as myself that need the boost. It's the bigger ones too. Ones like ContraPoints or Big Joel, if you watch them. Drop likes and comments on their new videos. They get a few thousand likes and comments guaranteed on their videos, but if you can bring that up to 10,000 likes and comments per video guaranteed in the first day, Big Joel's videos will start hitting millions of views. Like in a day or a week. You know, that's the kind of engagement that has to be seen on channels like his to be able to hit those big numbers where someone like Big Joel, and he's one of my favorite left-wing figures, that's why I use him as an example, I can see Big Joel hitting millions of views per video, like Moist Critical number of views, but his subs gotta comment and like more. And I encourage you, if you're subbed to Big Joel and you watch his videos, just make a habit of leaving a like and a comment. It can just be something as simple as, good video, Big Joel, and leave a like on it. And do the same for me if you want to support me, and do it for the same for your other favorite figures. It is imperative. The reason these right-wing Nazi bullshit artists control the narrative and control these platforms is engagement. It is a factor that creators cannot control. Only you can control whether or not you engage.
It's not even funny. He even went on Fresh and Fit's podcast and said it there too, which that one's less surprising.
Yes, too. I'll give you a pass. I'm sorry.
If she wants me to say it, I'll say it.
Some people say I'm not black, and some people say I'm Arab.
Pass.
I want you to guess.
Man, he really wanted to say
how many
it.
followers this jackass has. Now take that number and multiply it by 5. Because he has
Like
over
20 million.
1 million followers on Instagram. Over 1 million people saw this video and other videos like it and thought, now this is quality content. Not only are we going to go extinct sooner than we'd like to, but we deserve it. Now the other creator that
I maintain strongly the internet is the great filter. The answer to the Fermi paradox, why is there no life out there that we can see? Why aren't we seeing drones and Dyson spheres all around the local galaxy and universe? Why are we not seeing evidence of other life out there? Maybe it's all wiped out. Maybe before any intelligent life can become spacefaring to any serious degree, they come up with the internet for that useful instant communication. And that instant communication concept evolves into social media, naturally. I think we can all agree that, every intelligent species would eventually come up with social media. It just coming up with digital direct communication instantaneously would lead to the conception of social media just logically. If they can travel space, or could ever do that, or were on their way to do so, they would come up with social media. And maybe social media, obviously no species would have reference on what happened to other species that didn't tread carefully, like we don't. Maybe every intelligent species that's ever come about in the universe, including us, developed the internet, developed social media shortly after, and within 50, maybe 100 years, misinformation takes over on social media. The convenient lies and the exciting lies take over the truth, and the species destroys itself in the process. Maybe it just speeds up other factors that have been thought to be the great filters, like climate change or nuclear war. Maybe social media inevitably leads to global war on scale unlike anything we've ever seen. Maybe it universally guarantees enough ambiguity about issues like climate change that we are forever stun-locked into doing nothing about it until it seriously destroys our chances of progressing as a civilization. Maybe any number of things. It could be that maybe social media somehow leads to an underpreparedness for a big natural disaster, one from space or one that comes from the Earth. Who knows? I genuinely hold firm, though, that, like, social media, like, in the direction it's going now, will lead to the destruction of humanity, like, unironically. I don't necessarily think it's going that way, or it's gonna go that way, but it is going that way. Like, if the internet just keeps at this rate, exponentially getting worse, and the, like, opposite of the truth continuing to take hold in people, it feels like an inevitability that humanity will go extinct the next, like, century. Like, it would make sense if the internet was the great filter. I'm just saying.
I wanted to talk about doesn't explicitly say slurs, at least on camera, but he is just as far right and maybe more stupid too. His name is Hermes Did It Again. Hermes is another interviewer and self-proclaimed unbiased journalist, which we've had the pleasure of covering a few of those on the channel. And usually, if you're the one clarifying you're an unbiased journalist, you're not unbiased or a journalist. Hermes, like Hayden, is unable to apply any critical thinking skills into any of his questions or arguments whatsoever. Which is why, when he was actually present for the Mehdi Hassan Jubilee episode, he didn't go up to debate him even a single time. You probably didn't even notice him in the episode.
Really?
He can't even stand on the bullshit
Why
he
even
spews.
go?
How sad. Hermes does more of the same clip farming, slop content, almost political malpractice, if you will. It's stupid, it's surface level, and it works. Now, just a quick trigger warning, again, like Hayden, Hermes is a white supremacist. Which Hermes does sound like a white supremacist name, so awesome job to the parents, you guys were spot on. That's like if I named my kid Firefighter and then he became a firefighter. But Hermes' line of questioning and choice of words are a bit brash, so...
Nah, it'd be like if you named your kid, like, Inferno, and then he became a firefighter. Yeah.
If you're a person of color or queer, just keep that in mind.
What's your favorite animal?
Monkeys.
Do you think black people should be born in prison and then released for good behavior?
Listen, one of these days, the views and the clout chasing are gonna take this guy to the hood to ask questions like that. And karma's just gonna sort itself out.
What did you get from my answer about my animals to that question? How did that come up?
Yeah, so, yeah. There's really not a lot for me to debunk here because he's just like explicitly racist and obviously wrong. High crime rates stem from high poverty, which stems from low access to resources, which we infamously and historically withhold from black people. But I know that Hermes here just thinks that black people and people of color are subhuman. So any argument I make won't change the mind of anyone that thinks like this.
How long can you cry victim for? Like, that was ages ago at this point. Are you gonna cry victim for the rest of your life? Like, are you still oppressed? Like, I understand even the CIA brought drugs or whatever, invented rap music to try to hurt the black community, but
Is he trying to, like make light of the idea that the FBI, it was not the CIA, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, it was the FBI, right? Created crack cocaine and distributed it through low-income neighborhoods. Mind you, by the way, this is a very common talking point from conservatives that want to heap the blame. Okay, so a very common right-wing meme for years was 1350, which was a reference to crime statistics. The idea that, and this was their, like, copy pasta meme, despite only being 13% of the population, black people commit 50% of the crime. Explain that, libtard. And obviously, if you understand any amount of the data or anything, then you would obviously retort with, well, of course black people commit more crime than white people. Black people are several times less advantaged in America than white people, and crime maps directly on top of poverty. You know, it makes pretty good sense. But then, of course, you can't... Their goal in bringing these stats up is not to suggest there is a problem that the black community is facing or dealing with that needs to be addressed and, like, fixed so that we can have a healthier, safer America for everybody. Their argument, when they bring up a stat like 1350, they want to evoke fear, anger, and a mixture of other emotions in people that will radicalize them into believing that there is something inherent about black people that makes them dangerous, violent criminals that can't be, you know, abided, I guess. Their prerogative in this is to deny any sociological, criminological, or historical evidence that suggests that black people are not inherently more violent or predisposed to crime or anything like that. And they will fight tooth and nail to deny blatant history. One of their favorite tactics is to pretend like the countless examples of, on paper, written into the law discrimination of black people never happened, or if it did happen, it happened so long ago that if you're still blaming that for your problems, then, you know, you're just making excuses, surely. In their mind, it's like, well, slavery was over 100 years ago. You know, like, how could you be arguing that slavery is still having an impact today? Jim Crow was a little under 100 years ago. How could you argue that Jim Crow is still having an impact today? Segregation was 60, 70 years ago. How could you argue that's still having an impact today? And so on and so forth, right? But we're getting to the point where it's like, I mean, if you actually map out generationally how many generations ago, assuming, like, if you're black in America and your family goes back that far in America, if you map back the generations, like, slavery was not that long ago from a generational perspective. It's like, yeah, my great-great-great-grandpappy worked the fields, you know? Like, that's not that many greats. And then my great-great-grandpappy, or I guess in the case of segregation or Jim Crow, would be great-great-grandpappy, and a couple greats as well. That was generational Jim Crow. And when it comes to segregation, that was generational too, but, I mean, as long ago as, like, Grandpa, segregation was a thing. There were still plaques up for the colored water fountains, quote-unquote. There were still plaques up at my mom's school when she was going to school in, like, I guess it would have been the 80s, maybe, like, yeah, like, mid-80s. So, it really wasn't that long ago. It really was not that long ago. In fact, you'd be surprised to know how many, like, what you imagine as, like, figure... Oh my god! You know one of my favorite examples of this? No, this is gold. Have you ever noticed that, like, every picture of MLK is in black and white? Have you guys ever noticed that? About pictures of MLK? They're always in black and white. Have you noticed that? Color photography was prolific during MLK Jr.'s time. Prolific. Meanwhile, though, you're always seeing photos of him in black and white. Rarely do you see color photos of him. And I just think it's convenient. I'm not saying there was any kind of conspiracy or deliberate move made. I just think it's convenient that every photo of MLK that's famous tends to be black and white, despite there being plenty of color photo technology back then, because it conveniently invokes in people a sense of, that was so long ago. That was ages ago. But there are tons of color photos of MLK Jr., and all of the most famous ones, all the ones you see the most, are in black and white. I just think that's interesting. Newspaper photos were all black and white? Yeah, but I mean every photo. Like, every iconic, famous photo. And it is not equal to other figures of the time when it comes to, like, whether or not the photos were taken in color. Or at least the ones that have stuck around and been passed around long-term have been the ones that aren't in color. And I think that's significant. Like, you can say that I'm grasping at straws here, but I think that's significant in invoking in people a feeling that all that happened a really long time ago, when it really happened, like, in your grandpa's generation, you know, like, and if you're older, if you're like 30, 40, then it happened in your parents' generation, not long ago at all. Like, if you grew up and your parents had to go through segregation, then you probably weren't born into the best household. And people born into not the best households don't tend to have the best outcomes. But it is the right's prerogative, it is the white supremacists' prerogative, when they try to pretend like they want to have a conversation about crime stats, etc., violence in the black community. They pretend like they want to have a genuine conversation, but when you bring up these very real facts, they deny it. And that's not even touching on the modern-day, current, written in the law, ways in which the state discriminates against black people. Most notably, the prison system. There have been ways we've reformed it, but even Trump in real time is trying to roll back those reforms. One of the best examples is cashless bail. The right is trying to fight to get rid of cashless bail because they believe that criminals who can afford to pay bail are less dangerous than the poor criminals who can't. In reality, that's not what they truly believe. They know that the average person who gets arrested and is black probably can't afford to pay a cash bail, while the average or at least more people who get arrested that are white would be able to. Cashless bail means more black people can get out of jail, not have to be held there till their court date, and that's just not something white supremacists can abide.
Wait, the CIA invented rap music? Did I hear that right? Was
I
that
think he's
real?
being
Even the CIA
sarcastic
brought
to, like,
drugs or whatever,
dismiss.
invented rap music.
That might be the most woke thing I've ever heard. The CIA has their hands in a lot of shit, sure, but I really don't think that evil white people were capable of inventing something as good as rap music. That is so funny. So he seems to be aware that there's at least a little bit of government intervention or systemic meddling, but can't even acknowledge it a little bit? You're gonna tell me that it's just in people's DNA to be addicted to drugs when you know the CIA planted drugs in marginalized and susceptible communities? When you know the CIA invented rap music? This is the same interviewer, by the way. The one who forgot he had a photo shoot and I guess didn't have time to do his hair. Who is this guy and why is he interviewing the worst people in the world? Anyway, Hermes has no idea what he's talking about. And the influence he has is a little bit worrying. But the good news is that the majority of people that Hermes here interviews has similar reactions to what we've seen, which is just kind of being taken aback and confused. The people that tend to pretend like this line of questioning is normal are other bigoted conservative creators that are just doing a collab with Hermes. So it eases my mind, and it should ease yours, that the average person and the average interaction does not reflect your daily scroll on Instagram.
Would it be a little odd if in someone's religious book it said the age of consent is 3?
Yeah. What?
That is so funny. That's so funny. What? Sorry, we can't hear you. We're too busy trying to have fun. He's such a loser. Oh my god, leave these people alone. They came out to have a good night and you're just being Islamophobic and ruining it. Yeah, we on the left make everything political. Jesus Christ.
Would you rather have an
I like how they don't even argue the left makes everything political anymore, by the way. Like, they totally dropped that talking point because they realized, well, now it's time for us to make everything political. We should probably stop using that attack method against the left.
an all-black national soccer team that wins or an all-white English national team that loses?
I mean, as an Aussie, like, mate, it is what it is. Like, you get the win, you get the win. Ain't about colour, boys. Ain't about colour. It's all about getting the win, mate. So
the most like standard answer ever. Like, why the fuck would their race matter? I just like I want my team to win. So yeah, I would go with the team that's all black and guaranteed to win. Like yeah.
Do you think a black guy can be English?
of course, mate. Yeah. Like, I've only been here 2 months, and like most English fellas I've met, the black fellas, mate, like they're good boys. Like,
this poor guy being interviewed probably thinks he's on a prank show. Like, yeah, black people can be Australian. In fact, it doesn't actually matter who you are or what you look like in order to be accepted. I also like what he says at the end.
if you're a good cunt, you're a good cunt. If you're a cunt, you're a cunt. Doesn't matter about skin tone, mate.
Just breaking it down for Hermes on the most basic level his tiny brain can comprehend.
Are you pro-Palestine?
Yeah, of course. Free Palestine.
Are you pro the LGBT community?
I am gay.
This guy's so stupid. This guy's so dumb. That's so funny. Are you pro the LGBT community? I'm gay.
What do you
I like, one of my favorite things about conservatives is they're so stupid that their grammar when they talk about trans people and gay people is wrong. Like, have you ever noticed that? They don't know how to structure a sentence around LGBT as an acronym, or gay, or trans. They they literally forget how to do fundamental basic English grammar when gay people are involved. Maybe it's because all the blood is rushing out of their brain to somewhere else. Maybe.
You know what would happen to LGBT people in Palestine?
Yeah, but I don't care.
Really?
Because something bad is happening to them, so it doesn't matter if they would support me or not. I'm still going to respect them as human beings.
So you don't care if they would kill you if you went over there?
No.
You're still going to support them?
Yeah.
Great response.
These are the same people that are trying to bait you into saying something where they can reply, so much for the tolerant left.
To such a dumbass question. His brain can't compute the unconditional empathy. Shout out to this person for owning him by just being a good person. Also, Palestinians being anti-LGBT so we shouldn't care about them dying is such a tired argument. What, you think they have the luxury and privilege to educate themselves on gay rights and trans rights? No, they're too busy getting bombed. Maybe if they could live, they'd have that opportunity. And okay, like Hermes here cares about gay or trans people. Jesus, give me a break. Both Hermes and Hayden have come to be the staple of the conservative Instagram influencer. Their existence on the platform properly represents the social media environment that encourages this type of terrorizing content. I think it's safe to say that their beliefs or identity should not represent any side of mainstream politics. I also think it's safe to say that the tragic death of Charlie Kirk is making people forget the kind of man he was and the kind of men he influenced. But it's
a campaign to sweep for him and make him into a martyr, and for people to remember only the tragedy of his death and not the evil of his life.
Also, so important to note that this is social media and not real life. And as I've showed you, the average person is not as much in agreement with a lot of the things that these people say.
Tomorrow on September 11th, 2025, I will be organizing a White Lives Matter protest in Miami, Florida at 1 p.m. I will post the exact location on all my social medias 1 hour prior to the event at noon. This will be a non-violent demonstration. Do not bring any guns, knives, or any weapons. The only thing you will need is yourself, your spirit, any posters that say White Lives Matter, and any pictures of faces of the white victims that have been brutally murdered or beat down by the system or by any of these savage animals.
Sorry, I can't take anything that he says seriously.
I wonder
Shortly
what he
following
means
the
by
death of
savage
Charlie
animals.
Kirk, Hermes organized a White Lives Matter protest in Miami, calling for people of white skin to march for other white people that were brutally murdered by the system and those savage animals. Like the white guy that killed Charlie Kirk. Maybe you should be protesting white-on-white violence, Hermes. Anyway, with all the content I showed you today,
hilariously, like, for decades, non-stop, like, the stereotype of mass shooter is, like, nerdy, chud-looking white guy. Because that is what every one of them ends up being. And then, I shit you not, we have 4 mass shootings ever that are done by like a gender non-conforming person, like a trans person or someone who's non-binary. Like, if we use that as the whole umbrella, 4 people ever. And all of a sudden, the right is trying to push the idea that there's a trans shooter epidemic. Mind you, there have been tens of thousands of mass shootings committed by white dudes, like chud white dudes. Like, almost exclusively chud white dudes, incels and nerds and whatnot. And 4 trans people commit gun violence, and now there's a trans shooter epidemic. If you ever tried to use the same logic, well, actually, I would argue more sound logic, statistically speaking, and you targeted your ire at young white men for being more prone to committing said violence in the same way they're doing at trans people, they would lose their fucking minds. They would lose their minds if you applied their own logic to them. If you applied their own logic, but better, they would lose their minds.
Wouldn't be wrong of you to think that maybe there was a big turnout at this White Lives Matter protest. After all, Charlie Kirk had just passed, there's a lot of white rage, we're living in a harshly divided political climate, but it may please you to know that the turnout was a little bit disappointing to Hermes standards.
So if anyone was curious how the White Lives Matter protest that I tried to set up yesterday went, it went pretty disappointing, I'm not gonna lie. There was only about, 30 people who showed up.
Only 30 people. So, do white lives really matter, Hermes? I guess we'll never know. Hey, I for one think that all lives matter.
No.
Now, while these online influencers don't translate well to real life and real people, I'd also like to remind you that they are short-form content creators. It's easier for reactionaries to take over short-form content platforms, but we progressives can take over long-form spaces, like YouTube. These guys' numbers don't translate well to YouTube. You wanna know why? Because their audiences have the attention span of a goldfish. Spaces like YouTube foster more potential for educational and meaningful content that I genuinely believe.
Let's be fair though, the right-wing slop is still plenty prominent on YouTube, though I have noticed the long-form conservative content clearly caters primarily to and is consumed primarily by the boomer conservatives. Like, I think there's probably an audience of, like, the same 5 to 10 million boomer conservatives, like, older, like, 30s and up, maybe late 20s and up conservatives that just, they're the ones who fuel and constantly return to and religiously watch the majority of long-form right-wing content online, on YouTube at least. But for the most part, he is right. The right has mostly dominated... Actually, there are two formats they've dominated. The hyper long form and the hyper short form. The shorts algorithms, they've dominated that. The shorts, the stories, whatever you want to call them, they've dominated these algorithms. Obviously, we know that. But where they've also dominated, that obviously was a big point of talking for a while, but doesn't get a lot of focus anymore, is the hyper long form, the podcasts. Joe Rogan's podcast is like 4 to 6 hours per episode, if I remember right. I mean, that is not short-form content. Like, the fact that that has been such an effective way to radicalize people demonstrates that it's not just the doom scrolling that people are falling into the rabbit hole through, it's the desire to find the kind of content you can fall asleep to or listen to while you're at work or on a long drive or on your commute. That people are gravitating towards these big right-wing podcasts because they know they don't have to, like, fuck around with their phone to their computer for the next few hours. And they're just taking in hours at a time, multi-hour-long blocks of non-stop right-wing propaganda in the podcast world. And when it comes to the doom scrolling and shorts, they're just getting sucked in with a non-stop feed of what's keeping them engaged.
Can put us back on the right track. We on the left need to organize properly and consistently, and I actually think that long-form content is the best way to do that. Let conservatives have their rage bait slop content, while we can focus on creating real connection with real people. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support me and my content so I can keep doing this full-time, consider becoming a channel member. Not only will you be supporting me, but you'll also gain access to a bunch of different channel perks, like shoutouts and new videos early. Speaking of which, shout out to the channel members. You guys rock. Thank you.
Very good video. Very, very good video, and everything he said there in the outro is very true. Video will be linked down in the description, the original Saji Sharma video. If you guys want to go send some support, drop a like, drop a sub. I know I did, so go do the same, perhaps. I'd much appreciate it. And if you like my content, my streams, my videos, leave a like and a comment down below, maybe even a hype. Really does help the channel, and as I said before, it's all about engagement when it comes to these online algorithms. If we're going to rival the right, you guys got to hit like. Anyway, folks, be sure to subscribe if you want to see more from me in the future. Follow my social medias linked down below if you want to be a part of my community a little deeper. Particularly, I'll be hosting a watch party of the new Fiona and Cake season after stream today, so if you guys want to be there for it, make sure you join. It's going to be a blast. I hope I can see all of you guys there. And of course, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub to someone else on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch to the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me though, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.